What's up everybody? I'm Leaf with Adaptable Wealth, and in today's video I'm going to show you the 3 steps that you must take to ensure that you're only using debt when it makes financial sense. This is the second video in a 2-part series about the wise use of debt. If you haven't watched the first part yet, I suggest that you pause this video, go watch the first part, which you can get to using the link here, and then once you're done, you can come back and watch this video. The first part lays the foundation for what we will discuss in this video. Based on the qualities of good debt that we just covered, it is fair to say that certain types of debt can generally be considered better than others because they are more likely to possess the qualities that increase the likelihood of ending up being a wise financial decision. But again, the details of each loan do matter. Just because a debt starts off as good, it can quickly turn into bad debt depending on how events play out. Hello, millions of people who took out mortgages on second homes and investment properties during the early 2000s. House prices were soaring and everyone thought it would continue indefinitely. No one took the time to look at their deal and ask themselves how likely it was to continue and what it would take for the deal to turn out to be a bad financial decision. They just jumped aboard the train and millions of people lost their life savings because of it. This is something that very few people consider when taking out debt, even when it may be a wise financial decision at the moment. You have to realize that the value of assets rise and fall much more frequently and with larger magnitudes than the outstanding amount of a loan does. So debt can increase your net worth at one point in time when asset prices are rising, and all of a sudden you can be underwater at another point in time because asset prices have fallen. In other words, whether or not a form of debt would increase your net worth or earnings power is not a good benchmark for determining whether a debt is good or not. You need to go deeper than just the potential for it to be a wise financial decision, and you need to do some planning and calculations. That's the other thing that irks me about personal finance experts. They all caveat their list of good debts with the disclaimer of make sure you determine if it's a wise investment, but they don't show you how to do this. Well, I will, so let's jump right in. To make a wise financial decision about the use of debt, you'll need 3 things: a cost-benefit analysis, scenario and sensitivity analysis, and of course, a budget. Let's go through each of these 3 using a new car purchase as an example. Here we have Billy, who wants to know if he should take on a new car loan so he can take a higher paying job because what he's driving now ain't gonna cut it. He'll get a 20% raise and some other perks that you can see on the screen. And he's found a new car for $25,000 with a 7.5% interest rate, a 5-year term, and $1,500 down payment. Because he follows Adaptable Wealth, he knows this may be a great opportunity to build wealth with debt. So the question is, would this be a wise financial decision? The first thing you want to do is a cost-benefit analysis. It compares the present value of the costs to the present value of the benefits due to taking on this debt. The costs include any down payment or upfront fees required to get the loan, any ongoing payments or other fees due throughout the span of the loan, any foregone opportunities that you would have taken if you didn't get the new car and used the money on something else, and then there are increases in repairs, insurance, the cost of gas, etc. Basically, you want to capture the increase in any cost related to the new car, along with the timing of each of those costs. Okay, now you do the same for the benefits. Here you want to capture the increase in your earnings that will result from taking the new job, as well as the savings on car repairs or any other reduction in costs that you realized from the new car. Once you've entered all of the costs and the benefits that you can think of, you want to take the present value of all of the amounts. This will allow you to make an apples-to-apples comparison between the costs and the benefits, and then you can calculate a return on investment as a result of taking on the debt. As you can see here, the car loan doesn't appear to be a wise use of debt through the first 5 years. The difference between the benefits and costs are negative. The benefits don't start taking over until year 6 and beyond, right after the car is fully paid off. If we drive the car for 10 years and all of the other assumptions we made play out similarly to how we modeled them, then Billy would generate an 8% return on investment due to the use of debt. This is a good return on investment given that our hurdle rate is 10%. So it turns out that in this made-up scenario that it would be a wise use of debt for Billy to buy the new car so that he can get a better job, but there's still a problem. We've made a ton of assumptions, some of which are easily validated, like the increase in his income, the cost of insurance, the additional cost of gas due to the further distance he'll drive, and so on. But there are several variables that we are not so sure about. Things like the average cost of gas, the rate of increase in car insurance, and the rate of salary raises that he'll receive over our time frame. These are much less certain and they're out of control, so we need to calculate the same net present value that we did here, but with several different assumptions for the variables that are out of our control. This is what scenario or sensitivity analysis does. Here we have a sensitivity table that shows the net present value for various combinations of new job salary percent increases and annual raises. The red area are the combinations that have a negative net present value. These combinations are not financially wise uses of the car loan. The yellow area has a positive net present value, but it's not materially higher than 0, so some caution should be taken with those combinations. The green area is where you want to be. Those net present values are sufficiently high that even if some of the other variables were to be materially different than what we used in our model, we're building in enough cushion into our calculation so that the probability that real life plays out in our financial favor is quite high. What you see here is that if Billy took the job with a 10% increase in starting salary, he would need at least a 7% annual raise for the new car to be a wise use of debt. But if you only end up getting 3% per year raises, then you'd need to get somewhere around that 23 to 25% increase in starting salary for the debt to make financial sense. In fact, with the 20% increase in starting salary that we modeled, you'd pretty much break even if you were only to get 3% annual raises. This opens you up to the risk that some of the other variables that we're holding constant in this analysis don't play out like we modeled them. To be conservative and increase the probability that the new car is a wise financial decision, we'd want to fall in the green area of the table. What if you were wondering how various new car payments would affect the decision? Well, we modeled a $471 per month car payment and a 20% increase in starting salary. As you can see, we are comfortably in the green zone. But what if our starting salary only increased 10%? Would it be financially prudent to take on the new car payment? No. Billy would need at least an 18% increase in starting salary for the numbers to work. If we flip back to the first sensitivity chart, you can see that with an 18% increase in starting salary, you'd not only be able to afford the $471 per month car payment, you'd also need a 5% annual raise for this use of debt to make financial sense. Of course, this assumes that we get the 10% annual bonus, inflation averages 3.5% per year over our 10-year time frame, and all the other variables in the model turn out to be close to what we used in the model. If you want to explore other potential variables, and you should, you could build more of these sensitivity tables to do so. Now that we know that the current scenario is a highly favorable use of debt, and we understand the favorable ranges of the many variables that we used in our model, it's time to check the budget to see if we can afford to take on the debt in the first place. Most people start by asking themselves, can I afford this? And some don't even do that. They just say, I want that new car, and end up making a horrible financial decision that keeps them from building financial wealth, and then they wonder why they can't get ahead financially. The problem with starting with affordability is that it ignores whether the decision is a wise financial decision in the first place. In this day and age, people's psychology seems to be that if they can afford it, then they should buy it. Determining the financial impact of a decision forces them to first acknowledge that they're making a poor financial decision before learning if they can afford it or not. It switches the mindset from a, what the hell, I can afford it, why not way of thinking where you can ignore the ROI numbers because you want to make the purchase. And it flips it to a, man, this is a horrible financial decision that I shouldn't make, but I can afford the payment. You see how framing the decision in a different way is more likely to help you make a wise financial decision, even if you can afford it. If you're making poor financial decisions that have a poor or negative ROI, then it's going to kill the growth of your financial wealth. You've got to determine if a decision is financially wise first, then you check to see if you can afford it. Going back to our example, we've already established that there is a very high likelihood of the new car ending up being a good use of debt. So we go check Billy's budget, and we see that he already is saving $500 a month, so we know he can afford it. Since we've done the analysis, Billy can be confident this will likely be a wise use of debt for his financial future. Well, that's how it's done. That's my framework for when the use of debt is a wise financial decision. I hope it makes sense. You now have the skills and tools you need to make an informed, nuanced decision when it comes to using debt that will significantly increase the likelihood that when you do use debt, that it will end up being a wise financial decision. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section below. Until next time, you all take care, and remember, wealth is not only about money and things. Your time and health are just as important, and working to improve all three pillars of wealth is key to being adaptable, resilient, and thriving in life.